Rand took a knock on the back of the European Central Bank's decision not to hike rates and Nersa's decision to allow Eskom a substantial 13.8% tariff increase. The Rand was trading at around 14.55 Rand last night after dropping by 1.5%. The local currency has been battling since Eskom introduced load shedding last month. Let's get more on the story now and bring in Ted Blum. He's energy analyst. Ted, thank you very much indeed for your time. What's your understanding with regards to the reasoning behind these hikes?
So I found it a little bit opaque in the sense that I attended 8 of the 10 hearings, and the conclusion was that Eskom's application was defective. When I challenged the regulator yesterday at the discussion of the outcome, they admitted that the application was defective, but they said they had very little option as to what else to do, because if they sent the Eskom packing and telling them to come back next year with a new application, Eskom probably would fall over in the intervening period of time. That's how fragile Eskom is. So what they did is, and I think they went overboard, they compensated Eskom with an inflation increase of 6% plus another 6% effectively. So that's 14% increase that's going to hit consumers and business as from the end of this month.
So what happens? Tell us about the next 3 years. What sort of figures are we looking at?
Okay, so for this year, it's 9.41% plus the 4.41 from December, which gives you roughly your 14%. For next year, it's 8%, 8.1%, and then in the third year, it's 5.2%. But each of those other two numbers need to add on the 4.41%, which is from the RCA from 3 years ago.
From your assessment, were there any other options? Were they painted into, backed up into a corner in terms of giving these hikes?
Well, you see, this is where there's a difference of approach. As far as I'm concerned, the approach that Nersa has taken is that they've got their backs to the wall and that it's now their duty to keep Eskom alive. Whereas my personal view would have been to have struck down on Eskom, forced them to the wall immediately, and come up with a politically sorted out new resolution and a new path forward. All they've done is really kick the can down the road for three years and exacerbated the pain. The government's indicated they don't have the willpower to sort this out. They're going to wait until the final results of the Commission of Inquiry before they'll do anything. And they're not going to do anything before the elections. So the fact of the matter is that the public are being held for fools again, and the public are being sacrificed in the favour of Eskom.
Ted, stand by. I want to talk about the impact on the public. I just want to play a package with regards to the context of this. The Rand was trading at around 14.55 Rand last night after dropping by 1.5%. The local currency has been battling since Eskom introduced load shedding last month. So let's look at this package. Take a look.
The total tariff increase comes on the back of a 9.4% tariff increase for this year and 4.4% last year. The decision was taken after Nersa concluded public hearings across the country, and the steep increase comes despite opposition from business, labour and civil society. Nersa says it had to strike a balance between the interest of energy producers and customers. It has made proposals to Eskom to implement cost-cutting measures, develop maintenance plans and reduce the frequency of load shedding.
We arrived at this by being thorough in the way that we scrutinized the cost that Eskom has requested, and starting from the sales revenue and their ability to produce sufficient energy, and also looking at the OCGT utilization, which was a lot, and Eskom, it was a way of really trying to compensate, in our view, with the fact that its coal plants are not performing at levels that they are supposed to perform at.
But analysts have slammed Nersa's decision, saying the tariff increase is way above the inflation rate and that ordinary South Africans are being made to pay for Eskom's inefficiencies and mismanagement.
They've given Eskom, despite all the corruption, despite all the inefficiency, besides all the incompetence and the load shedding, they've given Eskom what amounts to twice the inflation rate increase for this year in total. And I think that's totally unacceptable. It will kill the jobs, it will kill the economy, and it's going to kill private individuals like myself who struggle to pay for an electricity service that's not reliable and is way more far expensive than what it should be.
Nersa has vowed to make tariff adjustments if evidence of governance failures at Eskom are proven. Mining companies say the tariff increases will have a negative impact on the sector and could accelerate job losses. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Pretoria.
Okay, tariff increase, as you heard, above inflation rate. Ted Bloom is still with me. Ted, what sort of impact do you think this will have for the average consumer?
Okay, so there's two impacts. One is the private individual, and the other one's the industry that uses a lot of electricity. As far as the private consumer is concerned, nobody gets increases of more than the inflation rate, and this is a double inflation rate increase. So I foresee lots of people having to switch off the electricity. It's not affordable, and they're already at the end of their budget. They haven't got excess funds available. We've come through years and years of recession now, more than 5 years of recession, and I foresee dire straits for the average household. And I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. As far as business is concerned, business warned Nersa at the hearings that if Eskom gets anywhere near the 15% that they asked for, 150,000 plus jobs will be lost immediately. They got 14% effectively. So I understand that at least 120 or 130 odd thousand jobs will be lost immediately. We're talking about within the next 3 months.
Are people planning to challenge this? What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, I think this ruling is challengeable because the bottom line is if you look at a legal analysis of a defective application cannot be remedied. And what Nersa has done is ignored its own pronouncements about the defective application and come to Eskom's assistance. I think that if we can put a few rands together and form I've already got the way forward in terms of taking this on legally. I just don't have the funds. So I'm looking for supporters and backers, and if anybody wants to come forward, I'm more than welcome to take on the challenge.
Ted, stand by. We're asking our viewers a very important question. And on our question of the day, we're asking you, how will the latest hike, the Eskom tariffs, affect you? You can send us your thoughts at @the_agenda_SABC. Would you say the proposed separation of Eskom into 3 entities, the generation, distribution, and transmission, does that affect price determination?
Well, I think this is a conundrum because now Nersa has given an increase to Eskom Holdings effectively. How it's going to be apportioned amongst the 3 subsidiary companies that are about to be formed as separate legal entities, God alone knows, because that was not addressed by Nersa, notwithstanding the fact that it's now a fact of life that the President has decreed that Eskom is going to be split up. Really, what should have happened is this application should have been struck down. It was defective on 2 areas. The technical side didn't match up, the financial side didn't match up, and now the whole corporate side doesn't match up. And Eskom, in its new 3 divisions, needs to put in separate applications to the process. I understand there's problems with timelines and municipal increase pressures and so forth. The fact of the matter is, you and I, if we want to go forward in this country, we've got to do what's right, not what's expedient. And unfortunately, again, I say the public has been sacrificed on the altar of Eskom.
We are asking our viewers, as I mentioned, how is this hike going to affect you personally? Send us your thoughts at @the_agenda_SABC. I understand we have some tweets. Let's put it up. Tao says, well, it started with petrol, now it's electricity. Sad thing is that poor people are the ones who suffered the most. And Tabo says, somebody once said that in this country, poor will remain poorer while the rich will remain richer. So now I can see that this was true. All this difficult situation affecting only us. Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts at @the_agenda_SABC. Ted, with regards to Nersa's investigation or possible investigation into Eskom, is that part of the plan?
Well, that's also a conundrum because I queried that. I said, there's 2 ways to approach it. You either sort out Eskom first, give them a good hiding, clean them up, and then give them an appropriate increase. What Nersa has proposed is give the money first, so we're funding the corruption. And then later on they want to claw back. However, the chairman did say that these increases are final. So he's contradicted himself. He said, on the one hand, it's final because he wants to remove uncertainty in the marketplace, which will affect the ratings agencies, etc. On the other hand, he's trying to cover his back by saying, we reserve the right to do further investigations and claw back if necessary. But the fact of the matter is, I've been crying about the corruption at Nersa since 2009. It's 10 years now. I understand that the initial Nersa panel was reluctant. I was the only one crying about corruption. Everybody told me I was mad. Today, when you mention the word Eskom, people say, aha, the corrupt organization. So it's no longer a secret. So why aren't we sorting out the corruption first and then looking at what the appropriate price increases need to be?
Ted, it's a developing story, and thank you very much indeed for your analysis. We will try to get you back in with further developments. That was Ted Blom, is energy analyst.